Welcome, Adventure. I'm GM Goblin, your GM Goblin. And today, as we get started, I am going to do, I guess I'll call them, I don't know if I've done this before, a Reddit raid. Uh, there's sometimes some really good questions that I see on Reddit that I and other people like to answer. And I find them asked a lot. When you look through either Reddit or forums constantly, like I do, you'll see it a lot. And I wanted to make some videos with some mentions to it. And I have done some videos for this a little bit in the past. And maybe I should do singular, but sometimes I don't think the explanation for the question is going to be quite necessary to be its own video. Maybe I should start doing shorts again. But regardless, we're going to take a look at the first one from Reddit. Napot42, does enhancement bonus transformed as a special ability count toward the limit of a stackable enhancement bonus? Specifically, they mention a feral champion war priest, level 8, and they want to use beast talisman. So what they're doing with their war priest ability is they're adding to the enhancement of the weapon. Specifically, they asked if they convert a +2 bonus to their sacred weapon as a disruption special ability, does it still not stack, or are my resulting claws +6 disruption weapon? So there is a few really good explanations. Emilang 1000 does an excellent explanation. I believe I've done this in one of my videos before, but I ran into this with explaining this to my wife when she played her Magus last time. This is what you're looking at for your sacred weapon ability. It is going to allow you, depending on your level, to add an enhancement bonus to your weapon. This works the exact same or very similar to Magus. Magus gets to remove a spell point from their class ability and then add an enhancement. And best thing about these abilities is you get to change the enhancement. So they stack with existing bonuses to the weapon may have to a maximum of +5. That is specifically for the addition to your attack and damage. That's your numerical enhancement bonus. I'll go over that real quick in a second. Weapon can enhance a weapon with any of the following special abilities, and then it gives you your specific. My wife played Eldritch Archer Magus, which has a little bit different than the actual Magus, but they work very much similar. You're adding, depending on how much you have. In this case, say if you have a +5, then you can take a mundane weapon, which she's done before, at a +1 enhancement, has to be magical, and then add +4 in either additional attack and damage or in weapon enhancements. So, like this. You have your enhancement number. In this side, consider it like 5 slots that you can get up to. Enhancements bonus stack. So when you go to 1 and then you go to number 2, it's just giving you an additional +1 to your attack and damage. This can be anything up to 5. Maximum is 5. Now you can have enhancement bonus 10 weapons, but that enhancement bonus is not numerical. That is going to be adding effects, like I have over here on the right side with Bane and Fleming. 1 second on that. But to have a weapon magical has to at least have a +1, specifically states that in the rules. And then you can have this up to +5, but it's not necessary. After you get a +1 weapon, you can either increase your attack and damage if you need it, or you can use training, which is +1. I recommend using training if you can. Love it. But you can also add enhancement bonuses like Bane and Flaming, which a Magus gets access to, which a War Priest gets access to. Secondly, these kind of classes are the best way to have Bane on a weapon because you can change it depending on your fight. But either way, in this case, this has +2, so it's 2 to attack, 2 to damage, and the enhancement bonus has got Bane, which is +1, Flaming, which is +1, and that's +2. This is a +4 weapon. That does not mean that I couldn't add an additional, Flaming to the weapon, and make it a +5, and then do it again. So if you have Flaming, Electric, Acid, whatever, you can do that. And you're going above that +5 that the War Priest mentions because you're bound by having a +10 weapon, a maximum enhancement bonus you can have. So the to attack and damage is only +5. You can have a +1 magical weapon, that's mandatory, and then have +9 worth of enhancement bonuses like Bane, Flaming, Electric, Cold, all that stuff to your weapon. In fact, we've done it. War Priest and Magus not allow you to go over the +10. So it's good to remember in a high level campaign like she did. I believe she was 1 over. We accidentally increased her enhancement bonus 1 too many. So when she used her ability, she kind of had 1 to spare. You need to either hit Mythic. I actually think there is a way to get class or an archetype to be able to overcome that +10, but I can't remember where it's from. Uh, or you're looking at something for level 20, and that's the only way you're really going to get it. But the enhancement bonus works just like that. Consider them either the same kind of pool, but you're adding them in different places. Their weight's the same, so a +2 is a +2, but you can only get to +5 for the actual attack and damage, and then you can get all the way up to +9 if you need to for the enhancing of an ability to add abilities to it, like Bane. So remember that whenever you're looking over them. I see a lot of people that get confused with it, and I understand it. I go through this my party, or I used to a lot with them, explaining how it works. We're all kind of vets by now, so it's no big deal. But especially when you're playing with a War Priest and a Magus, you're going to be preparing your weapon in knowledge that you're going to be enhancing it yourself as you. That is my advice on answering that. And the next one, your Marshal versus Caster. This one's from Fairy Branch. So spellcasters are obviously just better than marshals. But are there any 20th level marshals as a 0 spellcasting build that could reasonably match up with a 20th level caster? Insane damage, weird movement and stuff, whatever. Can you match such a spellcaster in their wacky game warping powers? As people are going to mention in the comments below, yes and no. So I have a player currently going through, and he's playing a type of warrior. I'll get into that build in a second. That does not have any casting abilities, but it can do lots of little things. He's kind of building it off of a Mandalorian kind of ideal where he's using the abilities of the character to kind of mimic what he would have if he was having a jetpack or if he could fire certain things, just that, although some of them are a little ridiculous because of what they can do. But when it comes to being a spell or beating a spellcaster, as some people like to put it, recent spellcasters are all, or especially full spellcasters, are all considered above your marshals because of their flexibility and do certain things. You're not going to really get a full marshal generally that can teleport, that can open gates, that can mesmerize or put a beholder into your robe. But that's not to say that they're not doing most of the damage. Yeah, I can build a caster and I can deal good damage and everything, but your marshals are dealing the damage, and your marshals are usually the ones that are up front and taking the brunt for you and applying for your defense. Your wizard can create alternate planes of existence. He can shift you between realities. He can disjunct you to some alternate dimension to allow you to through. Yes, your fighter can't do that, but if you stick them toe to toe with a Baelor and your single save gets failed as a wizard, you're probably dead. And I've seen, well, it was a 6th level caster, 1 round to Baelor at higher levels. Actually, I think 2 of his 3 or 4 attacks that he had at the time. But I know a lot of people don't like full marshals, and I understand that they don't have a lot of flashy things. Here's one way to get around that if you want to play a fighter. So, as a fighter, you're going to be getting things that are increasing your low slaves. You can build it so that it's not bad. My current fighter that I'm playing with in the Mummy's Mask game, he is a Iron Caster. This is going to be a little bit of a build where it is a fighter and a brawler. Maybe I need to make a build specifically for this, but it's going to allow you to spend some of your points that are derived off your constitution, which a natural enhancement you're going to use as a fighter anyway, to do amazing things. This is a build from Cartman Beck's Guide to Ironcaster. There's some other ones out there. When the Paizo forums come back, this hopefully is still going to be on there. You can find lots of things when it comes to their flexibility. But these builds are going to allow you to use martial flexibility and a resource pool based on your constitution to be able to do a lot of different things, from flying, use telekinesis. He used last time. He's been using it to not teleport, T-door. So dimensional door, party members, myself even once. And so as he advances, he gets better and better abilities. He's used it to gain feats, put Bane on his weapon. It is a great way to add these magical effects that your fighter normally doesn't have. It's a great build. He, I think, is missing the fact because he normally plays half casters, so they get up to +6, like the War Priest in their last section. I don't think he's played a Magus, but those are the kind of characters he normally does, and I think he's missing some of the buffs, which I had a tendency to debuff him. So there you go. This character has no buffs. He's just flat out good AC, good damage. It's really well built, and if you just want to play a martial and you want to play a fighter, Iron Caster build, being able to do these wacky little things, including, I think he used suggestion on a monster a game or two ago. So it's really well. If you want to play something else, look at a monk. Unchained monks are fantastic. My wife's the only one that's taken a monk to level 20. My next campaign I run, there's probably going to be one or two that pick a monk for reasons once I tell them what we're playing. But it is a way for you to play a martial character, does not cast spells, going to get all of these extra abilities, feel very magical with it. And there's lots of different monks that you can play. But a monk, you can be jumping around the battlefield, doing all of your ridiculous martial damage. And she played a mantis kind of build that we did. I believe she was a ascetic style, so she got a lot of weapon interactions. It was ridiculous. She dealt tons of damage. I think she could get up to like 130 dice or close to it in one round. It was just a monster. She loves playing super high damage characters. My party can thank her for all of the extra HP that monsters have, because if she wants to deal that much damage, then I have to add stuff. Otherwise, she just kills everything. But monks are great ways to be a martial character and still be able to have these extra effects. You can cast, using King Gong, the ability to give yourself barkskin. So you are self-sufficient. You've got lots of things like being able to fall from any heights, feather fall. All of these don't have to have some super natural or super spell-like thing to it. It's you hardening your body. It's you using your focus. So you don't have to play a caster. Or it can definitely be a way that you can use if you have a low magic campaign that you want to have limit on actual spellcasters, and they're excellent classes. But either way, just because you can't create demi-planes and cast wish does not mean that you're pushed to the sideline. Does not mean that you're not important. I love martial characters. Martials are fantastic, and everyone should love their martials, because otherwise you're going to die. Okay. Next one. This is going to be my last one for this video. Yeah, it's long enough. How do martial armies still fight in a world where magic can solve? And I have a player, and he says magic solves everything. I'll get into how to get around that with some stuff, but as a GM anyway. This kind of goes back to what we were just talking about. If you've got your normal fighter, what good is he? If you're using, and this kind of goes along with what level of magic in your campaign you're looking at. I tend to play high magic because my players love magic. I'm not going to put a party of super high magic always in a low magic setting. Case example would be something like doing Game of Thrones or Lord of the Rings, and you're adding D&D type magic on there. This is from Campfire Writing. First image I found for it. But they specifically state, this one's by IDG Captain Russia, talking about the kingdoms and how footmen would be your normal fighter. They're just peasants, they're low-level fighters. But with all of your magic, why would you even have them if you have wizards that cast Fireball? Well, as people will mention, a wizard is not generally going to be common. That's why they hid in towers. That's why they were court magicians. That's why the things they did were so spectacular. And you want to play in a super high magic campaign, like my guys last time did, then they're fighting a lot of super magical builds and magical monsters. I mean, I had magic, heating homes and everything. It was very common. It was a mix of magic and tech, really. And so it was super common, but the mundane people to do things like this, like I talked about with Ironcaster. I gave them the ability that almost like you have your anime and they have their special attacks or they have the ability to increase their strength or give themselves damage reduction. It's not magical. It is sheer willpower and training. And also when it comes to mundane, there's lots of builds to add that kind of flexibility. And so I did it to make it to where you have reason for people to not just have magic, their own special interest, their own special devotion. That is what gives them the power. That's why they have their damage reduction. That's why they have their rage abilities. That's why they're a monk. So this can work. Sometimes you just want to, instead of just using your standard soldier for things, make them something else. Everyone has these extra class-like abilities for non-casters. And can it resolve or make things mundane? Kind of obsolete? Yeah. We're going through the desert. Our poor GM, we cast a first level spell, and no one has to worry about being hot, being cold. I can sleep in the middle of the desert at all times. I can cast a cantrip, and no one's going to starve. No one's going to run out of water. Cleric for the win. And it's just one of the things that there are spells and magic that gets over and around everything. But you can still have martial armies that are still worthwhile. You can find marshals that are proficient in the ability to taking out wizards. If you have a high level campaign, I had my party fight a lot of them in my last full campaign. And so they fought people that were resistant to magic. And if magic is common, magic defense is common. So your fighters that can do all this rage, that can, like a monk, jump 40 or 60 feet and get a full round action, spring attack, all of this stuff. They're also going to have magical defenses. In a high level campaign against magic, my players are not the only ones with magic. I told them last time and they wondered, they're like, wait, there's this. Yeah, there's magic defense. Yeah, in a game full of guns and a game full of high level magic, everyone knows to use a spell that whips bullets back or gets rid of the ability for someone to use firearms against them that you have to get past. Or players are going to have shields that get rid of missile, because it's so common. Are just some of the things that you can do. Validate having a large martial force still in a game with high fantasy. By the way, enjoy your game this weekend. Roll me some 20s.